Okay, I'm Michelle Sanver. I usually call myself a code-passionate, colorful geek. I'm a co-president of PHP Women, which I hope you all heard about. If you haven't, talk to me. And I also, since recently, run my own user group, Groningen PHP. If you live somewhere around Groningen or want to travel, check us out. We're awesome. I'm a freelancer, so I have my own company. Yippee! And, well, I'm looking for clients actively, so if you want to hire me, do so. And I'm also open to new opportunities if you actually have a full-time job that I would like. So, my mom is a graphical artist. You're not going to see any normal pictures of me. So about ProTalk, it's videos currently about PHP. And ProTalk is basically quite awesome. And if you want to see this talk again, it will likely be on ProTalk. So check it out. It's protalk.me. And they're looking for contributors. So contribute. And I'm going to show you how. So how many of you have ever contributed to an open source project? Almost all of you, okay. And how many of you have made your own open source project? Okay, a lot of you. So what are you doing here?
See how it's done better.
So, because you're also used to it, I mean, why don't you contribute to my talk as well? Because that's how it works, right? So, the promise of open source is better quality, higher reliability, more flexibility, lower cost, and an end to predatory vendor lock-in. That's from opensource.org. So, better quality. If everyone is going to see your code, yeah, you're going to look a little bit more careful. And in the end, better quality. Also, there's a lot of people that's really pickish about your code, and it will lead to better quality. With better quality comes higher reliability. And it's more flexible. That's just natural. Lower cost, if you don't have to pay a lot of salaries, it's mostly, pretty cheap. And in the end, one of my favorites, end to predatory vendor lock-in. It means that you're not dependent anymore on a vendor, and, that's awesome. So, what more can I say? Are you convinced? Open source is awesome. So, before we get started, I asked Linneke and Kim, the two women who started ProTalk, what their top 3 things a contributor should know before they contribute to open source is. So, first Kim, it's okay to get it wrong, because that's how it works. You learn from getting it wrong from time to time, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that it's wrong. And you might not get an immediate response. That's okay too, because mostly people are busy, they do this in the evenings, and maybe they don't see what you're doing, so contact them and try to make a response. You have to be active. And don't be afraid to ask for a task to be assigned to you. If a project is big, you love the project, but you have no idea what to do, just ask, what can I do? Assign something to me, and it's going to be awesome. So, Linneke says it's really important to know Git, right? I'm not going to really talk so much about Git here, but I'm going to give you some resources so you can check it out better and give you the basic tips. It's important to be passionate about the project. And you have to have a feeling that you can actually use the project. And maybe you're curious about the development process or you want to learn more about it. So, here's my little guide contributing to open source in 10 pretty small steps. Step 1, yeah, I have to have a project. And how do you choose the project? There's so many projects out there. It's millions and millions. I don't even know. I can't count. And be passionate about it. That's one of the main rules I can think about. If you're not passionate about a project, why would you spend your time working on this in evenings? And it doesn't make sense unless you're doing it at your job, which is awesome. If you do open source at your job, that's fantastic. And use GitHub to your advantage. Because on GitHub, there's so much cool people. And on GitHub, you can search. You can search for anything you want, like symphony or anything. And if you have friends, what are they doing? Are they contributing to an open source project? Are they running an open source project? Is it interesting? If you're working with friends, you know, it's often much cooler. But not everyone has friends, so then you can look at the activity of the project. And you can do that by checking the commit history on GitHub. And you can also just look at your skills. What can you do? Like, are you good at backend PHP, frontend? Or even if you don't have any skills you think you can contribute to the project with, maybe in the end you can, like make a silly high five icon. I made this one, I think it's awesome. So, you maybe have an idea about the project, but check out the license first, because it can change your mind. Most projects are MIT license, and that means you can do anything you want, basically. I'm not going to talk about licenses today, but I'm going to provide a really nice resource in the end of my talk. And yeah, it's important to check it out. So how would you choose the project? There's a lot of people here who have contributed to open source projects. How do you choose which project you contribute to?
Thing you use?
Yeah, I was using something and I got involved.
So by using something and getting involved. That's the usability Lineker talked about. So that's really important. If you use it, yeah, why not? Anything else?
Yeah. If it provides a good community resource, so you want to help the community.
So if you want to help the community. Okay, that's a really good one.
Like Joined In, for example, yeah. It's a good community resource and you feel like you want to help that resource.
Yes, Gary just said Joined In is a really good resource. And yeah, Jeremy?
Something that scratches an itch that you've got and is already doing it, so why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel? Something that scratches the itch. Right. Any questions how you should choose the project? All right.
Which projects are you involved in and how did you choose?
Which projects? I'm
I'm
currently...
guessing ProTalk.
ProTalk, yes. I chose it for 2 reasons. I think ProTalk is an awesome project because checking out the videos and conferences and learning from it, that's fantastic. So yes. And also because Lineker is my friend and she really wanted me to contribute. So I did a hackathon at PHP Northwest. And Join In, I'm making an iPhone app. It's something really cool and fun to do because I don't work so much with iPhone and iOS in my everyday life. So it's diversity as well. If you work with only PHP, maybe it's fun to do front end or something else. So now you have shows of your project, and you need to install it. How? I mean, there's so many projects. I'm going to assume that you picked a project that's on GitHub. So it's using Git, fork it. And it's really just a button. Press it, done. It's on your profile. And now you have a fork of the project, and it's really, really easy to use this. Just clone it. I'm saying just clone it, but maybe it's not so obvious to everyone how you will do it. Cloning a project is in GitHub just, again, pressing a button and basically copy-pasting it into your lovely terminal. And this looks like a lot of things, but it's just the first line is what you write, git clone, then you paste, done. You have the project on your computer. You have the code, but now what? Now you have to set it up. And that's nowadays where Vagrant comes to play. And Vagrant is really easy to set up. First you have to install Ruby, Vagrant, and Oracle VirtualBox. I'm not going to go into this because it's so easy and there's no use. When you have this installed, you go to the project, you go Vagrant up, done. Everything is sorted for you and you can start coding. How awesome is that? You have your database and you can access it, and it's just fantastic, hopefully. And then manually. On ProTalk, there's a lot of steps to do it manually. First, fork it, of course. Use git clone like we talked about. Run ant. Make sure the app directories, etc. writable. Create a database. And run the command to make schema, import, blah, 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 blah. A lot of steps. So, do you like Vagrant now? Is there anything else you think the people in here are new to open source should know before they install the project?
I am an open source project lead, and sometimes we make changes in our project which mean that our install instructions don't work. And I want everyone who's new to open source to know that if they can help me get the README for new contributors right, that's a massive favour for the project, so they're not being stupid because they don't know how to set it up. It's actually really, really amazing to get feedback from those new contributors. I want everybody to know that. Okay, so if contributors can't set up the project correctly, it's fine, and then they should check out the README, and they're actually helping already by saying that the README isn't good enough. So that's also a way to contribute, just by setting up the project and saying, hey, I'm having problems with this, help. So are there any other questions and pointers about installing? No? Okay. So step 3. Now you have everything on your computer and it's time to investigate. Do you really, really still want to get into this? So what I usually do, I first look at the code base, because most of us are programmers, right? And if the code base sucks, maybe we want to help them fix it, and that's awesome. But sometimes, nah. So check the coding guidelines. And if the coding guidelines, I think it's important to have coding guidelines so that everyone are on the same page. If a project doesn't have coding guidelines, contribute. And start a discussion, because maybe the coding guidelines isn't the way you want them, but be ready to be flexible. As long as there is a coding guideline and everyone is following it, it's usually quite okay. And does the project have tests? Some of you maybe hate testing and don't want to touch it. So if they actually have
demand tests every time. Are you willing to learn? Yes, you should. So learn testing or back away, or make this a project where contribute tests. And what else should you investigate?
How to get in touch with the other developers.
Sorry?
How to get in touch with the other developers.
Yes.
Mailing lists, forums.
Yeah, that's step 4. Hi! So, well, first in step 4 you have to find out where are everyone. Is there a mailing list? Is it just a group of friends, that's hiding in a basement somewhere that you can't get in touch with? That happens. And if you can't find them, then maybe not. For me, it's all personal preferences here, how you like to communicate. For me, it's IRC. And some of you may already know me as Geeky. And if I join your IRC channel, it's suddenly active. So, yeah, there's a lot of places and a lot of ways to contact. Some have a forum. Some only contact via the issue lists, which sometimes works. But either way, before you contribute, I would like to contact them. Ask them, what's happening, check out the mailing list. The last thing you want is for someone else to be working on what you're just going to be contributing on. You don't want clashes, you want communication. And when you said hi, observe the responses. If they're mean and saying, yeah, read the manual, maybe if they're really, really mean to you and not welcome to beginners, just leave. It's no point. So, what else about saying hi should people know about? Nothing. Awesome. Any questions so far? No? Cool. So, step 5, now you said hi, you really want to work on this project, you investigated everything, but what can I do? I mean, there's so many things. Probably the issue list is huge of bugs that's been there for ages and no one's working on it. Or there's really nothing. So again, communication, you have to talk to them. And it's not your project, but you can always fork it, work in your own fork, and do anything you like, and eventually they might pick it up. And the GitHub issue tracker is really your friend here, if you're working with GitHub. And you can also check out if a project has another issue tracker, like Join does. And on GitHub, it's just really, really simple. Just, you see the issues, and maybe something is... I want to first pick something super easy that I can do. And maybe this, fix tests and fixtures. And if there's really nothing you can do, investigate the project further. Because if you're really passionate about it, you have to know something that's missing. Or you probably discovered a bug already. So create an issue. And often, like everyone says, pull request welcome. So yeah, create the issue. And eventually create a pull request. But, yeah.
Is there a way in GitHub to tell people that you take ownership of an issue?
That you take ownership?
That you're going to try to do something with it.
To assign for some issue.
Yeah?
Yes, you can be assigned. What you asked is if there's a way to take ownership of an issue. So that depends a little bit. You can say, I want to take this issue. Then you can be assigned the issue, and then it's yours. Like if we go back, here you see everyone's issues assigned to you, created by you, and mentioning you. So there's some issues which maybe Michelle can do this, mentioning me. Or issues that I created and totally forgot about, or that's assigned to you. There's things that I said, I will do this, and they put me to it. So if you're the project lead or you have access, you can assign issues to yourself.
Do you mean for if you want to contribute to another one?
Yeah, and
Someone
to
else's
avoid
project?
two people working on the same issue that don't communicate very well.
If you report an issue and you say, we'll start working on a fix, you can just mention it in the issue, and then they will know who will work on it.
Yeah, always leave a comment on the issue if you see something you want to work on, and that way you often start a discussion, and then you can say, okay, I want to solve this, and they will assign the issue to you. So, yes, in open source, communication, it's everything. If you fail to communicate, it's gonna be really difficult, and it's gonna be super, super difficult. You're gonna have several people working on the same thing, and you're gonna have issues you didn't even know existed. So communicate. And if you don't find communication channels for a project, make one. If I don't find an IRC channel for a project I want to work on, I make it, because I really want that. That can be a way to communicate. Make a mailing list. Contribute with communication. That's awesome. So, what can I do? Questions and pointers.
Well, I'd say when you make an issue, when you create an issue, and you immediately add a pull request, first off, contact the core contributors if your solution is the one they want to go with, to avoid doing too much work that will never be.
Yes, and so first contact the contributors when you create an issue before you start working on it, because it may not be something they actually want for their project. That's a really good point. Yes?
I prefer doing pull requests instead, because that describes your solution better than how you can put it in words in most cases. So then they can also respond on the way you have implemented it, or provide feedback on what to do different. So
Mark prefers to do a pull request immediately, just do it and then they can see it. And sometimes it's something really big, and you may not want to waste your time if they're not going to want it. But it's a good way to say, look how awesome this is, and if they don't like it, it usually starts a discussion that can more likely end up in it being in the project, because they can test it now.
I was
So,
not talking about complete feature, just some small fixes or minor adjustments.
Okay.
small fixes, yeah. Yes?
Two things. Most projects will have one preferred way of communication, a mailing list, a news group, IRC, whatever it might be. You will never persuade the project to change.
Yeah.
So if you don't like mailing lists, don't use a project which likes mailing lists. You're not going to be happy.
Okay, what Rob said is that most projects is going to have one preferred way of communication, like a mailing list or IRC channel or something. And if you don't like it, don't start the project.
Secondly, when picking an issue, a lot of projects will use a tag called Easy Pick or something similar. They're normally ones that have been filtered out for new contributors.
Oh, that's a really good point. It said that a lot of issues has been tagged Easy Pick, and that's for new contributors, and it's something that you can start on that's really easy to choose. So you can start there, and that's a really, really good point. And I know that JoinIn has Easy Pick issues as well.
Rob made them.
Rob made them.
I stole the idea from Composer.
Okay, so Composer as well. So if you want Easy Pick issues, at least you can go to JoinIn or Composer so far. And now you know what you can do, but how do you do it? Read the guidelines. There's a good project to me has good documentation, mostly, if not, contribute. And read the documentation and ask the people. And in the end, you know, you're used to it. It's just code.
And you do that everyday life. This is not different. It's just the same as you do all the time. And the scary thing is, it's going to be public, everyone is going to see it. Probably everything you've been coding, if you haven't been contributing to open source, it's only a very few people that see it, and often it's not even other programmers that see it. And that's gonna be scary. I'm not lying, it's really, really scary. But until you actually push it out, it's private, it's super private, if you want it to be. And what I like to do, if I'm unsure, I don't push it up, but I show people snippets before I do it. That way I can be sure that I'm not embarrassing myself. And go to the communication channels and ask any questions. No questions are stupid questions, seriously. No questions are stupid questions, they're all good. Questions? Yes?
Just one. GitHub encourages a file called contributing.
Sorry?
GitHub encourages a file called contributing. So if you're looking for the information on how to contribute to a project, and most GitHub projects will have a file called contributing in
Okay.
their root folder.
What Rob said is that most projects will have a file called contributing in the root folder, and you can read that before you contribute. And if they don't have that file, contribute the contribute file. In the end, you have to actually just get out of your shell, and it can be really scary, and just, do it. It's easy. But first, it's been quite some steps. So you're going to have to probably update yourself now. Your code base is probably outdated since you've been dabbling, you've been saying hi, you've been reading a lot, and you've been discussing a lot. So this is something that a lot of people are confused about. So I'm going to show you how easy it actually is. This is how easy it is. Add the upstream, fetch it, and merge it. Done. Ta-da! And if you're unsure about Git, I'm going to show you an awesome resource in the end of my talk. And it's going to be fantastic. I promise. So, make your changes because you know how to code. And something that I find super, super important, commit often. Commit all the time if you want to. After every line is better than after 500 days, whatever. So commit often, I will be really, really pleased. And, that's all there is to it. Step 7 is really easy. Just code. So questions and pointers.
Your commit often is such good advice because often I get a good feature or a bad feature with also maybe some coding standard fixes and something else, all in one pull request. If it's separate commits, I can pull the good bits even if we still need to discuss the other parts.
Okay, so what Lorna said is that the commit often is a good tip because often you have so much code in one pull request, but if it's separate commits, she can take the good bits and still discuss the other parts. So anything else? Cool. So step 8, push it. And it's really, really easy. That's all there is to it. Questions? No, see? It's that easy. And that leads us to step 9, the pull request. Now, this is the really, really nerve-wracking, scary part. I was hiding behind my desk and I didn't want to do it. It's, I had been programming for over 10 years since I was a child, and now for the first time, someone else was going to be critical. They were going to look at what I did, and the whole world, the whole world could see it. And that's really, really scary. Imagine everyone's eyes. Now I'm scaring everyone away from open source, right? But don't worry, I managed. And I'm really nervous about everything. So if I manage, you manage. And the pull request itself. Now that's the easy part. It's really just a button and a form. So on GitHub, it's easy. GitHub makes everything incredibly easy. So I took the screenshots of the new GitHub. I find it quite confusing compared to the old GitHub, but that's another discussion. And before, on the old GitHub, there was here in the corner just a button where it was pull request, but now you actually have to go to the pull request thing. And it's not that hard after all. And this is my first pull request ever on an open source project. I contributed a GitHub icon to ProTalk. That's how easy and a simple little thing it was. It was nothing complicated, but you know, in the beginning, it's often easier and much nicer if you're nervous and scared about something to do something that doesn't even matter that much, you know. It's a line and no one can criticize, you know. Okay, that's probably a lie. Everyone can criticize your one line of HTML, you know, but that's fine. One important thing or something that you should know about is that if you picked an issue, you can link this issue to the issue tracker on GitHub. You can do this by seeing what the issue number is and then simply hashtag and issue number in your pull request. That's really, really easy and all there is to it. So, questions about pull requests? Yes?
It should be possible to attach the pull request to the existing issue.
It should be possible to do what?
I haven't tried it myself, but the hub command from GitHub, instead you can alias it to Git. You should be able to attach it even to the existing issue.
Does anyone know if you can attach?
Yeah, there's one line tool called Hub for it.
Okay.
It allows you to create pull requests from issues. So then, because a pull request is an issue, in fact on GitHub, so if you create first an issue and then a pull request, you have two issues for the same thing.
Yeah.
With Hub, you can create pull requests from an existing issue. So you end up with one issue about that topic.
Cool. They're talking about Hub, this thing that's totally awesome that I never heard about. So thank you for your contribution to my talk, because now even I, giving the talk, actually learned something new. So everyone check Hub out. And any more? Yes?
Comments. When you create a pull request and you fill in a comment, it's really, really nice to know why you've created this PL.
Yes.
We can read the code. You don't need to tell us what the code
What does this solve?
But why is this feature important? Why have you rewritten to do it this way? That's really useful information.
Yes, what Rob says is that don't just describe what the code does, because you know they can read the code and they usually know what it does. I think unless it's really messy, and then you should rewrite it anyway, right? And write why. Why are you making this pull request? Because that's a good question, right? Why? Why should they accept it in the first place? And any more questions and pointers? Yes?
About the two issues thing, I think if you add text like closes and then the hashtag to your pull request, then it will, even if there are two issues, if the pull request is pulled in, the original issue will also be closed. So it's not just linking to an existing issue, it's also issuing a command that will close that issue if
Yes.
your pull request is accepted.
Yes. If you link it, it will close the
Or
issue.
you actually put in the word closes and then the hashtag, or
Yes.
multiple hashtags maybe if it was discussed in many issues, then one pull request could close multiple issues.
So you put in closes before the hashtag, and then it can close the issues when the pull request is accepted, because the pull request handle these issues, and then it's all done in one. That's a really nice tip. Anything else?
Yeah, so if you can get over the fear of submitting your first pull request, it's worth pointing out that you'll get feedback from people about your coding style or how you've made your code,
Yes.
which is absolutely fantastic feedback you'll get from people who are running the project. So you can use this as a free training tool almost.
Yes, basically what Gary said is that you can use this pull request as a free training tool, because people are going to leave amazing feedback. They're gonna help you, and you will learn a lot. I actually learned a lot from doing almost nothing, because people, they really want to help you. They want to help you become better at what you do, and they also want to teach you. If you're actively contributing, they want to make sure you're the best in their team, because that's the best for everyone, right? So, any more questions and pointers about the pull request?
Well, from a personal perspective, don't get put off if the first response is about coding standards and not about what you're actually trying to contribute.
Yeah, don't be put off if the first comment is about coding standards or something silly like that, because in the end, there's also going to be, just like there's grammar Nazis, there's going to be code Nazis, and it's going to be sometimes quite scary and terrible. So just kind of filter it out sometimes, maybe. Or start a discussion if you like those kind of discussions, tabs versus spaces, anyone? So just start a discussion, because that can be funny, or ignore it. Whatever you want to do, just don't go away. Yes?
If you submit a pull request and someone comments on your coding standard, it's probably quite a good pull request. If it's rubbish, they would just close it.
Sorry, if
somebody comments about your coding standards on your pull request, they were interested enough to read your pull request. If you submit pull request and it's nonsense, they won't talk to you about coding standards, they'll just close it. So it's like, it's probably a positive thing, even though it's irritating.
Yeah, what Lorna said is that if someone talks about the coding standards, they were reading your pull request anyway and not just closing it, so it's a positive thing. Yeah? Anything else? Great. So we covered step 9, the pull request. And then we would think we're done, right? But no, we're not. Because now comes scary thing we were talking about, the code review. That's when you're waiting there anxiously for your pull request to get accepted. And someone is probably way smarter than you, or way better than you, or even don't know anything compared to you. They're going to look at your code, and they're going to say, hey, this is all right, or, you did something wrong there. And even in my one little line pull request that I did, my first pull request, I did something wrong. And that was really embarrassing, of course, at first. You do something small and it's wrong. But it's okay. Like Kim said, it's okay to be wrong. It doesn't matter. And when I was wrong, I got amazing constructive criticism. So, yeah, that's cool, right? It looks good. Just remove those 2 files. What I did was, I don't quite remember what I did actually. I think I included git ignore or something. I did something wrong with my files, and some files that should be ignored, and they weren't ignored. So you can discuss it and say, no, this is correct, it's gonna be this way, or don't take my pull request, I go off. Or, you correct it. That's the same thing to do, correct what you did wrong, accept that you're wrong. It can be hard to accept it sometimes, but start a discussion. Yeah, obviously I corrected my 2 files, so
a pull request got accepted. Woohoo! And in the end, you learn so much from even the simplest little thing, from all the discussions, from everything. But it's going to be scary, and it's going to be people that's just saying this sucks, or just bashing at you for personal reasons, or they're going to leave criticism, but you just see it as trolling because your code is awesome and they're saying stupid things. So remember that sometimes people are trying to be nice, but you can think they're a troll. Trolls can be incredibly cute too. So, thank you.